Hello and welcome to this week's video. A little bit different, as you can tell. I'm sitting here at my editing station with my crazy gaming headphones on. That is because in this week's video I have video and still pictures from the last couple of weeks of my adventures. And some of the video just was not descriptive enough, at least the audio from that video was not descriptive enough. So I wanted to be able to interject occasionally with this crazy mic and headphone thing, where I thought the audio was lacking a little bit. Occasionally you're going to hear this weird sounding microphone interjecting in this week's video, which is actually a combination of a couple of weeks worth of stuff. So enough of me babbling about this stuff. Let's actually get into some gardening and whatnot. This week we need to do some transplanting. We've got this tray full of starts here that, well, they're getting a little bit big for where they are. Some of them definitely can stay for a while yet, but some of these big ones like this guy here definitely needs to be transplanted. So I've decided, instead of going into my big flood tray, that I'd haul out the Mega Garden. This is a little hydroponic thing that I got many years ago. It was the first hydroponic unit that I bought. The new ones I noticed are made much nicer. This one has some sharp edges, and I didn't use it very long. But I think it'll be good for these few plants that I have. It's a little bit smaller. I can concentrate my light around it, and for the time being anyway, that'll be, these 15 slots will be enough for my my little transplant things. I had some decisions to make, or a decision to make, of what kind of medium to use in these pots. They've got fairly large holes in the bottom, and I initially thought that I would use, these are 5 1/4 inch pots, by the way. I thought that I would use regular perlite, the horticultural perlite, but down here, I'm afraid that as these ebb and flow, that a lot of it's going to end up in the tray here, and I don't really want that. I was afraid that if I used the lava rock, which is a little sharp, lava rock, when I put it in, I don't really want to be moving it around a lot. I'm afraid it'll cut the stems some, so I didn't think that was good, because these are eventually going to go into these the large buckets, you know, and these are what go outside. So they're going to have one more transplant from here to here, and then from here to here. So I didn't want to cut those stems. I thought perhaps hydrogen, but that, as you tip it upside down, I don't know. It just didn't seem right. So I've decided that I'm going to use the chunky perlite. This stuff here. I don't have a ton of it, but I think I have enough for these 15, at least for now, and we'll try that, see how it goes. I got my my chart here, so I know what each of these different plants are, and I certainly hope to transfer them and retain their actual names and not screw up my chart. But I've noticed that it's going to be a little tricky to try to get these out of the tray, but I think I've got a plan, so we'll try that, see how it goes. I was watching back some of last year's videos, and I noticed that I'd mentioned, instead of using the 3-inch pots, I wanted to use 4-inch pots. As it turns out, last year I was actually using 4-inch pots, so that's why this year I've decided to use 5-inch pots. The hope is I can get them down further into each of the pots, and there'll be more support as they start to grow in the tents, and they'll be easier to take out for hardening off. At least that's the hope. So 1, 2, 3, 4 of those. So I needed to be real careful here to make sure, of course, that I knew where each plant was going to go and what variety it was. When I laid this out, I probably should have cut my rock wool cubes beforehand, figured out where my peppers ended, where my tomatoes started, and perhaps even the different varieties, and cut little segments out so it would be easier once you know the tray was full like this to get them out. As it is, in order to get this first set out, because it's a 10 by 20 tray and a 10 by 20 sheet of Rockwell cubes that's completely full, I had to get in, as you can see there, get in between the two rows and try to get my razor blade down in there and cut right at the exact spot where the two meet. It was a little tricky. It did get done, obviously, as you'll see here, but yeah, it was a little difficult to do. That's the only drawback of this big sheet like that. But as you can see, once they come out like this, really nice to work with. Very easy. You just set the whole thing right down just like that. All right. Not too shabby. We shall fill one of these up with some chunky perlite. Let's trim these little sucker leaves off of here. We don't need those. I guess they're not sucker leaves, but starter leaves. Lots of roots in there. Put that way down in there. And that one is a red one. All right, I'll put that over here. This is a jasper, and boy, I tell you, I am liking that this jasper is doing so well, because I'm looking forward to the jaspers. Little small berries on these things, but they are just so tasty. And of course, by berries, I mean little itty bitty cherry tomatoes, not actual berries, because it is, after all, a tomato. But a couple of quick things here. These larger pots really were wonderful to work with, as opposed to the 4-inch pots. These 5 1/4 inch pots, much deeper. I think it's going to work out a lot better in the flood table, even if they do get a little bit bigger than I want them to. I think it's going to be a great adjustment. And the going from the 2-inch to the 1.5 inch Rockwell cubes, also I think a very positive thing. I definitely will not go back to the 2-inch for the seedlings and that sort of thing next year. We'll stay with the 1.5 inch. And with this part of the project done, it was time to move on to cleaning out the big tent. These clone mothers had to go from the big tent into the small tent, so clean that up real nice, mop the floor a little bit. It was a little nasty in there. Took the other stand out that was in there, and started moving the clone mothers into this small tent. A little crowded by the time we were done. You can actually see in the center there, one of the Valencias actually had a couple of tomatoes growing on it. But once we got that cleaned up, I had to clean up the big tent, which basically some sweeping and the little vacuuming in there, and move the mega garden that we just filled up into this tent, and rearrange some stuff, rearrange the lights, so everybody was happy, and we were good to go at that point. So that lasted just about a week. Well, actually, exactly a week, from Saturday to Saturday. And then it was kind of time to move things out and rearrange so we could get the big flood table in. That meant draining the small mega garden there and moving that out of the way for now, and setting up the big flood table. As you see, my cat, Baby Boy, a great help in this process. And potted up the rest of the other 48, I believe, tomato plants, getting ready to go in here, and fill up the flood tray, get ready to go. And I also had to throw in the meter, so we got our pH readings and ppm and that sort of thing going, and quick test there. And once we had a successful flood and drain, which I think looks pretty darn cool, We were good for that tent, and that's where I rested for Saturday. And then Sunday, it was time to clean out this tent, which meant because I needed to have room for the mega garden, which had all my peppers in it at this point. So we started. By we I mean me. And this is where I decided that after this video is a little over 10 minutes already, probably the best thing to do would be just to wrap up, show you how things ended up for Sunday. And I'll do a little video at another point that talks about the cloning procedure I went through with these mothers in here. So got this tent cleared out and moved the mega garden in there with all my peppers, and it looks pretty nice. Here's a little close-up of the end result of the clones, and they have since looked much sadder than this, and my hope is that they will perk up, but I'm sure they will. I'm positive they will. But you always kind of wonder that first couple of days after you stress your plant out like that. So anyway, sorry this video was so long, and thanks for sticking with it. But hopefully we'll do another one soon. At least with we'll finish up with the cloning stuff. And have a good week. I'll talk to you soon. Take care.